When Jungkook first entered the scene, he wasn't just another young performer. His growth looked engineered, as if he knew exactly how to carry the dual weight of art and image. What he did on stage wasn't improvisation, it was design. The way his voice climbed, how his body synchronized with rhythm, how his expressions turned into stories, it wasn't born from randomness. It came from observation, from absorbing a kind of artistry that lived on global screens long before his own. Over time, people began to sense it. There was something about the way Jungkook approached his career, a structure that mirrored the logic of Western pop stars, yet reshaped through the lens of Korean artistry. He wasn't copying, he was understanding. His early covers, his focus on English lyrics, his evolving tone, they all pointed toward a single source that helped define his discipline. But Jungkook, being Jungkook, never rushed to say it. He allowed the work to speak. And that silence made people talk even more. Every time he released a new track or appeared at an international event, fans and critics dissected everything: his movements, his vocal choices, his fashion sense, his stage habits. They compared, speculated, theorized. Yet, Jungkook stayed still, letting the world form its conclusions. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't need defense. It waits until the artist decides that the time has finally aligned with honesty. That time came quietly. No headlines, no staged announcement. Just words spoken naturally, in a tone that carried relief more than surprise. Jungkook finally shared what many had long suspected. There was one artist who changed the way he saw music, the way he saw fame, the way he saw what it means to perform beyond language. Justin Bieber. It wasn't an imitation, it was ignition. Jungkook had watched how Bieber built his identity not only through sound, but through performance that blurred the line between vulnerability and control. That combination fascinated him. It gave him a framework to explore who he could become, not as a copy, but as someone who could translate that kind of presence into his own universe. When Jungkook spoke about it, the room shifted. There was no attempt to hide the truth behind polite phrasing. He meant every word. He didn't say it to impress anyone. He said it because acknowledgement is part of growth. The admission didn't shrink him, it clarified him. It explained the meticulous rhythm behind his ambition. Justin Bieber's path gave Jungkook something beyond music. It gave him permission to believe that global artistry was reachable, that boundaries were meant to be tested, and that language was only a medium, not a limit. From that point on, Jungkook's decisions made perfect sense. The reason he trained relentlessly wasn't only to match the expectations of his label or fans, but to reach a standard he had silently set for himself years ago. He had seen how perfection could be pursued without losing authenticity, and he aimed to find that balance. Every vocal note he refined, every performance he recalibrated, came from a pursuit that was personal, almost sacred. Jungkook's story isn't about imitation, it's about evolution. He looked at Bieber's career and didn't see competition. He saw a mirror that reflected what was possible if discipline met passion. That insight shaped how he structured his own artistry. The detailed choreography, the polished production, the visual tone of his solo works, all of them carry that same global instinct, that same belief that pop can be universal without losing soul. Yet, the beauty of Jungkook's path lies in what he didn't do. He didn't chase trends or rely on controversy. He relied on refinement. That's the part that makes his connection to Bieber even more interesting. Both of them grew under the spotlight. Both faced the consequences of fame early. And both had to find the meaning of their voice in a world that often confused youth with recklessness. But while Bieber's journey was loud, Jungkook's was quiet, different roads, same destination, mastery. To understand how deep this inspiration runs, one has to look at Jungkook's choices, how he composes, how he presents himself, how he interacts with audiences. There's always a calculated humility, a sense that he's aware of how much has been given to him and how much more he wants to earn. That's what separates imitation from interpretation. Jungkook didn't copy Bieber. He internalized the idea of artistic responsibility. As years passed, that foundation became more visible. From the way Jungkook handled his global collaborations to his solo projects that crossed linguistic and cultural barriers, the pattern of influence stayed consistent. The voice that once echoed Bieber's R&B-inspired smoothness matured into something more intricate, something undeniably his. The vocal texture that once leaned toward admiration transformed into ownership. That's what growth looks like when the student surpasses the echo of his teacher. Jungkook never needed to hide who influenced him, but the timing of his admission shows his evolution. Only when he reached a level where his identity was unshakable did he decide to share it. Because true inspiration is only worth mentioning when it no longer defines you, when it becomes a part of you. And that's exactly where Jungkook stands now. He has become the embodiment of what global artistry means today. Fluent in multiple languages of sound, performance, and image. Yet behind that modern precision lies a story of admiration that began with one name. It's a reminder that even the brightest stars start by looking up to another light. Jungkook's acknowledgement of Justin Bieber doesn't make him smaller. It magnifies how far he's come. That's the paradox of influence. It's both foundation and freedom. Jungkook built his empire upon that silent foundation and then broke free from it, crafting a soundscape that now influences others in return. He is both the admirer and the one being admired. The circle has completed itself. When Jungkook performs now, he no longer seeks validation. What drives him is mastery. The way he directs his music videos, the precision of his recording process, the way he curates his sound, all of it reflects a man who knows what he's doing and why. And that kind of certainty often comes from studying those who once walked the same path. Bieber gave Jungkook that mental framework. The understanding that fame is not the goal expression is. It's easy to overlook how much this admission means in the context of Jungkook's culture. In an industry where individuality is often shaped within collective identity, acknowledging a Western artist as inspiration is both bold and honest. It shows how Jungkook sees music not as divided by geography, but united by ambition. His mention of Bieber wasn't a cultural bridge, it was a declaration that artistry belongs to no one place. That mindset explains Jungkook's rare sense of creative freedom. He doesn't hesitate to mix genres, languages, or aesthetics. He moves between R and B, pop and soul, with the confidence of someone who understands that expression has no borders. That's the essence of what he learned, not the sound of Bieber's voice, but the freedom behind it. When Jungkook talks about music, there's a calm certainty. He doesn't decorate his thoughts with drama. He articulates them like someone who has already processed every angle. That same composure reflects how he absorbed Bieber's influence. He never treated it as something to imitate, but as a philosophy. To stay true to what moves you, regardless of what the world expects. And yet, there's something poetic about how both of them evolved. Justin Bieber went from teenage sensation to mature musician by confronting his flaws and turning them into music. Jungkook's evolution followed a quieter but equally powerful route. He faced the world's gaze with discipline instead of rebellion. Both arrived at the same truth. Real artistry begins when you stop trying to prove and start trying to express. If you look at Jungkook's solo projects, you can trace this journey clearly. The sound design, the lyrical depth, the visual tone all carry an echo of that philosophy. Not the imitation of another artist, but the resonance of shared intention. He learned how to blend smoothness with intensity, how to keep his emotions controlled yet visible. It's the same balance that defined Bieber's best work, the one that transforms performance into storytelling. That kind of connection doesn't happen by accident. It requires years of quiet observation and personal translation. Jungkook took the essence of what inspired him and rebuilt it through his own lens, a lens shaped by Korean discipline, global awareness, and emotional precision. The outcome is a voice that feels familiar yet entirely new. People often ask why Jungkook resonates so strongly across cultures. The answer isn't just talent, it's understanding. He understands what the world responds to, honesty delivered through polish. That's the rare duality that made Bieber iconic and now defines Jungkook's artistry as well. When he finally said Bieber's name, he was acknowledging not just an individual, but a shared blueprint of how to reach people beyond borders. The influence is also visible in how Jungkook handles fame. He doesn't rush into attention, he measures it. He's aware of the cost that comes with it. Watching Bieber navigate global stardom gave him an education in what to avoid and what to embrace. It shaped his composure, his patience, and his refusal to lose control of his narrative. Jungkook learned that fame is not fuel, it's fire, and you must know how to hold it without burning. There's a quiet elegance in how Jungkook mirrors the discipline of someone who learned through others' chaos. He saw the turbulence in Bieber's youth and understood the price of speed. That understanding guided his restraint. It's why Jungkook's rise has been steady, never erratic. He doesn't rush because he knows the value of momentum, a lesson learned not from textbooks, but from watching someone he admired navigate storms before him. By acknowledging Bieber, Jungkook was also revealing a deeper truth about himself, that he's not afraid of influence, because he's confident in identity. Only artists who have outgrown imitation can admit where they began. And that is where Jungkook's maturity truly shows, not in perfection, but in self-awareness. Every performance now feels like a dialogue between the boy who once looked up and the man who now stands tall. The stage becomes a conversation with his younger self, the one who watched music videos late at night and wondered if global stages were too far away. The answer, clearly, is no. The distance he once admired has become his domain. The acknowledgement of Justin Bieber wasn't an ending, it was a beginning of transparency. For the first time, Jungkook let the world see the thread that connected his journey from dreamer to phenomenon. It added depth to his story, not by revealing a secret, but by showing that even icons start with admiration. The humility behind that statement made it powerful. In a world where artists often guard their inspirations like weaknesses, Jungkook turned his into strength. That's the mark of someone who understands legacy, not as inheritance, but as continuation. He's not rewriting Bieber's story, he's expanding it. Through him, the influence evolves, shifts, and takes on new meaning for a new generation.